So today we're going to get creative and make our own Muntin bars. Now if you don't know what Muntin bars are, they are window dividers that divide up the panes of glass. So even this window right here, this modern window, has false Muntin bars because it's a good architectural look. The reason these are false Muntin bars is because these are just basically adhered to a big piece of glass and they're not really dividing the glass up. On our door back here where we have our window opening, these are going to be actual Muntin bars that divide up 3 different pieces of glass. So here's what we got. We've got a couple router bits that we're going to try out. And the first one is this cove bit. So this one just makes cove molding, so it's a 3/4 inch cove bit. Second one is a 3/4 inch round over bit. Then we have a 1/2 inch rabbet bit, and then we have a full inch rabbet bit. We're going to be making our own custom profile. This is just something that I came up with in my mind and I want to draw it out for you guys. And by the way, we already have our materials milled to size. This is mahogany. I'm still amazed by how you can just take a raw piece of lumber that you buy that looks really rough, like a raw tree, send it through the planer, run it across the joiner, send it across the table saw, and you just end up with these beautiful pieces of wood. That's just super cool because we're going to turn these into something even more beautiful. So here's essentially what we're trying to make. We need one piece of molding that's a cove on one side, comes back down to a cove on the other side, typical cove profile. But right here in the middle at the bottom, we want to have a tongue right here. Now this one right here, this little section, this is a 1/4 inch. And what that's for is to house the glass. And then on the opposite side, we'll also need to make this molding. It'll be the same thing without the tongue on there. Those 2 pieces of molding will kind of sandwich in our glass. The third piece will be this one. It's going to be a little bit longer here so that cove profile will come down and level off like a cove, typical cove, but it's going to have this, again, another tongue. And this is going to be probably 3/8. And what this is, this tongue right here will be slotted into the frame, the window frame of the door. So we've got the door dry fit together right now. So obviously we'll take this back apart prior to glue up, and while we have it disassembled, we'll have the opportunity to run a mortising bit on the inside pieces of this window frame here. And with that slot cut in there, we'll be able to drop in that profile that I just drew on the iPad. All right, so we now have all of our pieces milled. We did these off camera, but it's the same process. We made these simple cove moldings here. Those are for the back side of the glass. And then the other kind of specialty piece for the back side of the glass is this back-to-back cove. So that one is done. Those are all good to go. Now, these are the ones we just showed you guys routing out, and these still need some work on them. So we've got our back-to-back cove here, and then these 2 single ones that are longer towards the bottom. So we need to rabbet these out, and while we were routing out these coves and these other pieces, I remembered that I had this feather guard here. And I remembered because my hands started hurting trying to keep pressure up against the fence. And I was like, why don't I bring that thing out? So basically what this is, you can adjust it and set it up to the thickness of your workpiece here, but a little over. And as you push that piece in, it gives a little bit, but it keeps consistent pressure up against the bit. And these are pretty common. You've probably seen these before, but we'll show you that as we switch over bits to one of our rabbet bits and start routing the next pieces. Hey. Sit. Sit. Good boy. All right, so I think what I'm gonna try to do this big rabbit right here. We'll call this the jackrabbit, and we'll call this the bunny rabbit. I'm gonna try the jackrabbit first. You know how they say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? Well, it's not true. The STDs come home with you. All right, that one's snugged up, and we will have to drop the RPMs for this one. So we now have our bit set at the right height. We've got the fence set at the right distance. And using this feather guard, I mean, it's pretty basic. You just take your workpiece, put some pressure on it, and then you tighten it down. And I really need to get some knobs for this. It'll be a lot easier, but we're using a socket today. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna push into this, and you can see it kind of moves, but it keeps that consistent pressure like I was talking about. So the only thing I have to worry about now is just feeding this through at a good pace. So I'll feed it through one way, turn it around the other way, and feed it through. Then we should have our molding with the perfect little notch out for our glass. Flip it around, get the other side. So there we have it right there. That's exactly what we were after. And if you remember, that looks exactly like the picture I sketched out earlier. Sweet. So we've got plenty of this. We have way more than enough of this, because this only needs to go vertically right here twice. So one there and one there. We're done with that. We've got these two to do, so we'll adjust the bit, and then yeah, we'll be done milling this stuff. We can actually get to installing it. So we just adjusted the rabbit bit. We're still using the jackrabbit, and we raised it up. So here's our last piece of molding. What we need to do is cut out this shape like that. So we raised up the rabbit bit to just hog all that out right there. So I've got my feather guard set up. I just need to feed these through, and we should have that last piece that we need. Check it out. We have milled 4 different pieces of molding. Nothing to it really, just coves and rabbits, jackrabbits. So we got those done. Those are ready to go. We're done with the milling process. Now what we need to do is take our door, disassemble it, and take those portions of the door, those pieces that are right where the opening is, and run those through a mortising bit on the router. And this thing is a little too tall. Well, it wouldn't really hurt it too much, but I don't want to dig into my tenon like that. So I'm going to drop this thing in about right here. Yeah, about right there. And this thing should be good to go. You can see that little notch out right there. That was for, or that is for my panel. Mahogany panel goes a 1/2 inch in here, and that little cut houses it. Broken. So yeah, this is the first time that's ever happened to me. I broke a freaking router bit. And this is a cheap Ryobi router bit, like literally like a $7 bit. So I was probably overloading this thing way too much. Should have done it in multiple passes, but I'm too stubborn to do that. So what we have here is a broken bit. So what we're gonna have to do, that is crazy. Oh yeah, that sucker's hot. No kidding. So we're going to go to Plywood Company right now and get an Amana bit that's industrial steel, and I'll be able to make my full pass in these pieces. So yeah, it's I mean, it is a lot to ask. There's nowhere for that dust to go either. So that thing probably just got really frustrated and just gave up the ghost. I do take responsibility for that. I'm not blaming the bit. We'll return shortly. So for round 2, we're gonna try something a little bit different. I'm gonna take off my clearance plate so the dust has somewhere to fall. And then obviously we have a new bit. This is our brand new Amana Tool 3/8 inch mortising bit. This one has a 1/2 inch shaft. Much better than the 1/4 inch shaft that we just broke. So I'm gonna dig this thing out of here. Nope, not too bad, but I might have to get a new. Oh no, I can just bang this out of there. Garbage. No, it's still good. I'll CA glue it and throw it on my eBay. So you can see the groove that we just cut in with this, and our piece drops in here, like boom, like that. Nice snug fit, not too tight, not too loose, plenty of room for glue. And then I can see where my pencil line is and just mark it there. And that should be dialed in perfectly. That's essentially what we're doing right there. Getting those miters inside there. And that's gonna look super sweet. That's a pretty sweet look. And then when these come, when this comes to divide it, that's gonna look pretty cool. So I got my 45 cut there, and where this other 45 was like left over, I cut out a little bit of a notch for it, but not enough. So what we did, we just cut that straight. So it's even with the shoulder of the tenon, which is totally fine, because all we're really gonna see is, you know, this profile here, and the glue surface is gonna be on the face of that tongue anyways, so it doesn't even matter. We should probably just glue these first and clamp them. Wait 30 minutes and then glue them up as separate members, because they're perfect right now. This is Titebond 3. It's an exterior waterproof glue. I'm not trying to be petty and cover it up. There's actually a Titebond 2 bottle that I didn't want to get confused. I cleaned it out and put the 3 in it because I bought a like gallon or 2 gallon of 3. And I didn't have a little bottle for it. So yeah, that's what this is. So as long as I'm flush right here with my edges, because these are already perfectly cut to size, I'll be good. I really need to get some clamps on this. I saw a guy do this once, where you take leftover sawdust and mix it with the glue, and when it dries, it's a lot easier to clean. At least I think that's what I saw. It was like one of those YouTube shorts or something. One day I was just laying in bed, and I woke up like it was like 7, and then I was watching shorts. I looked up at the clock and it was like 7, the next 7. So 12 hours of shorts. Crazy. That actually works pretty good. Look at that. Yeah. It's like just scraping right off. It's turning into like putty. Yeah, that'll work. All right guys, so we've got all of our perimeter cove molding glued in to the grooves around our stiles and rails for our window opening. That's as far as we're gonna get for this episode, if you will. In the next episode, we're gonna take this piece that we made earlier, which is our vertical Muntin bar divider, and we're gonna cope out a section of it so it fits perpendicular to those moldings that we just glued in. That's gonna be really cool to see that come together. And that's where that roundover bit's gonna come in. So it's gonna be like cope and stick. So we're gonna do that to that piece, also to this flat piece that doesn't have the notch for the glass. And speaking of glass, we are going to go glass hunting. So we're gonna get like a 1/4 inch piece of historic wavy glass from an old home supply here in town. So that should be pretty cool. And we don't really need that much. We should be able to just buy a window that already has that like 2x2 glass in it, and then we'll cut it ourselves and install it in between these divided windows. But yeah, we're gonna call it a day there. Still quite a bit of work to do on this. Sand the panels down, get this glued up, mess around with some glass, a lot of fun stuff coming your way. So thanks for watching.